Hi there, and thanks for joining us on one of our very first little chats to tell you about behind the scenes here at the Homestead. Some of you will know who we are already, and some of you might be completely new to us. So my name's Cecily, and this is my partner Pete, and together we run the Homestead in Goathland. We're going to chat just a little bit of nonsense probably about what made us want to be here, what's happened along the way, and what our plans are for the future. So bear with us, this is completely unplanned in conversation and we've already been winding each other up. So good luck us. So like I say, some of you won't know who we are yet. So I'm going to hand over to Pete for a little bit of the why and what made us come here to Goathland.
Well, it was a little dream that I've always had, really, to have a restaurant of my own, really, that I could make my own choices with, and have the freedom to do what we wanted to do, and then one day I just stumbled across this property in Goathland, which is where you grew up, which is kind of an amazing kind of coincidence, really, and it was the perfect place to start, this kind of new chapter in our lives. Really.
It wasn't the first place you'd found, was it? Like, it's no joke to say that Rightmove was probably your favourite app for quite a long time.
Yeah, no, I've been looking for a long time, found all sorts of weird and wonderful properties, isolated on the coast, and needed massive amounts of work doing to them. But then this was the one, this had been a restaurant at some point. It already had that here. It had a holiday cottage at one end. It's got a perfect sized garden for doing the kind of things you want to do. And yeah, it seemed to make perfect sense as soon as we came to look at it, really.
The property made sense, didn't it? But the timing was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was all done during lockdown, and it wasn't that lockdown. A lot of people say that they found something new in lockdown. This idea was way before lockdown. It was just the fact that the property was there during lockdown.
Because it had come on the market, hadn't it? And then disappeared, and we thought it had sold, and so then it was February 2021. February 2021.
Yeah.
And you came back on your break from work. I was at home with Wilfred, 3 months pregnant with our second baby, and I'm sitting there on the sofa, fire blazing, and you were like, come in, you're like, what do you think to this? And I was like, oh, here we go again. And then you were like, no, seriously, like we can do this. And it went from kind of 0 to 60, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say within 4 weeks we'd probably put an offer in and had it accepted, and off we were going. And then,
I can still remember like texting my family members and being like, this is super early days, don't tell anyone, it might not happen. And then there's like this little snapshot business plan, which is pretty much what we ended up going for, but I think we were going to do separate individual letting rooms, not the cottage. And every night, didn't we sat down and we were like, right, we're going to need a business plan, we're going to need this, we're going to need that. And all I wanted to do some nights was just sit and watch Netflix. But we stuck to it, so we did the business plan. And it was March, wasn't it? I think it was March we put the offer in, and it was kind of by hook or by crook, wasn't it? Trying to, and I think that's the difficult thing about not just buying properties, but like the whole, have you got the funding? Have you got the mortgage? Have you got this? Like, we kind of had to like slightly play off.
Well, yeah.
People against.
Also, I think we put the first offer in, and then they said that they sold it to someone else, and then we had to put another offer in before it, and then eventually went some kind of closed bids.
I was talking about that this morning. Best offers, wasn't it?
Best offers at the end of the week, and then so we were kind of sat there for a week wondering, but it all happened, and it took a long time, the process of getting a bit of funding and going through all that. But we sold up everything we had and took it all and brought it in, and this is where it ended up.
Yeah. And I look back and, I think what life is like now and how this is our life. It always sounds a bit corny to say it's the dream or, but I would never ever have, for myself, having not been in hospitality before, I'd have never said this is my dream. But it's funny how sort of one person's dream can rub off on you, but also how you didn't. I think it really reiterated that you don't know always what is the dream, because you just have to live it and follow what feels kind of good, and then you find, and as someone who is quite a anxious person, to kind of put everything into this project whilst expecting another baby was quite big. And you always seemed pretty confident, but like what were you most scared of?
I think just having, especially with a young family, moving in here, putting everything into it, it not working out was my biggest fear. It not being busy enough, and as having to just kind of walk away from it. I guess it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but that was just the biggest. That was the fear. I mean, I guess most people have that fear when they're doing something. You've got to take a leap of faith, And we discussed that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We said that was the words we used. We said this is going to be a leap of faith. Even before we made the transaction for the property, we'd already sold up everything. So we'd already left our previous life, and if this hadn't gone through, we'd have been kind of in limbo. But we just knew we had to take a leap of faith, and we took it, and because we knew that it was what we both wanted. So.
Yeah, I think having run businesses before and had my whole personal life tied up in that as well, I think that's where I definitely had that mental block of your business directly relating to your home and how that was going to work. And, that's kind of how we came up with the name, wasn't it? Like the Homestead is, we live here, we work here, it's a small space, it's like, it's about looking after people in our home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Both the restaurant, there's a cottage at the other end, we're in the middle, it's one space, and yes, there's the separation, but ultimately it's home. And, having that sort of asking the permissions, because it being mum and dad's business name and home back in the kind of 60s down in Suffolk, they had the Homestead. So it was a kind of ode to, their determination, I guess, like when I was growing up, of like doing what felt right. As one of 6 kids, it was balancing kids and business, but it just kind of always seemed to just about work out.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely had some kind of, pinch points that would make me feel worried now that we had our kids as well. But I guess you just learn, don't you, about what are the good parts and what are maybe the not so good parts, and how do you kind of change that for the next generation. But I think after the initial kind of craziness of getting the property, it was quite a whirlwind, wasn't it? I mean, September 21 we get the keys, and we were already fully booked for opening night 8 weeks later. And people used to say, didn't they, they were like, what will you do if you're not ready? And we were just like, well, we have to be ready, we just will be. Ralph was weeks old, we were like kind of you'd have him in the sling, wouldn't you, like coming around here, like dealing with builders, dealing with like kitchen fittings and stuff, like, can you not do that too noisy because baby's asleep? And yeah, it was mad times. But it's quite nice looking back, like it's 2 years to next week 2 years next week since we got the keys. A lot's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been great. I've been really pleased with kind of where we got to. Customers seem really happy. That's the main thing. That's always what I'm.
Are you happy?
I'm really happy. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Couldn't be better. We took a leap of faith. I've never looked back. It's perfect. I love our life here. I think it's absolutely great.
So I think the nice thing about doing these like longer chats is, we can talk about where we've been, what it's like now, and like what do we hope for, and hopefully like when we get people in that have been part of the story so far, we'll be able to kind of visit those same kind of questions. So that kind of, we've kind of got a little bit, I guess, of the history. There's loads, isn't there? There's loads to it, but I think that's what brought us here. And then, it's like, what's now? Where are we at today as we sit here? Well, it's our day off for one. Yeah. But there aren't, and a lot of people say that, don't they? Like, oh, it must be, all encompassing and everything. But ultimately, for me anyway, it doesn't feel like work when we're doing things like this, because it's what makes us tick, you know. And I think you do have to find the joys in everything that you're doing, rather than the kind of the long game necessarily. But I think it's good to sometimes to just like take stock and go, right, that was then, this is now. So it's like, you know, embrace it and think, well, I don't know, what are you most proud of so far, like here and now?
Um, Getting here and getting it up and running and opening. Just, you know, the opening day, it was a really tough time. You know, we had a 4-week-old baby when we moved in. We got a 2.5-year-old at the same time. So we're trying to bring up family, trying to do this place. Really proud of just getting it open. Yeah. Really proud day. I was really proud of us. Because that was quite difficult. And then
it was winter as well, wasn't it?
Was winter. You know? There was a lot, you know, there was still talk of another lockdown. It was a lot. It was a tricky time to open a restaurant, and it's been a tricky time actually for the whole time. You know, then you get sky high electricity prices, and you get there's been a lot of things that, you know, pressures on on a lot of industries. So just really proud that we've kind of made it through the first 2 years, and where we've got to, you know, won a couple of awards, which has been great. Customers have been really happy. You know, staff seem happy. We have a lovely team, and it's a great working environment. And I really enjoy it every morning when I come to work. I really enjoy it. You know. To have created that, for us to have created that, is I'm, you know, super proud of that.
It's really special, isn't it? That feeling of, yes, you always have to have that dynamic of who's your boss, who are the staff, but like, and we chat about it. I think we share quite a lot between everyone, don't we? Like, no one, like, yes, you have to be the one that's making sure that, you know, all the boxes are ticked, you know, and someone kind of with that overall responsibility. But, you know, in a kind of time when people are really struggling to find staff, I think we've been we always knew that we wanted to make sure it was kind of intimate and small enough that worst case scenario, we could just do it, the two of us, right? That was what we said. We were like, because Goathland is beautiful, but we're on the moors. It's quite an expensive village to live. So there aren't that kind of, you've not got that pool of younger staff maybe that want that weekend work. And we didn't really know how that was going to pan out, did we? But the way that we built people in and how kind of long term that's been I sometimes can't believe it really, because, you know, there's Pete, and you can, you know, tell the story behind how he came to come and be in the kitchen with us.
Yeah, I mean, we were super lucky to have him. Amazing cook, and just his knowledge of food is unbelievable, and he brings so much to the table, you know, and he takes a massive amount of pressure off me in the kitchen, so I'm able to do some other bits. Obviously, he just finished his
So
restaurant.
you worked together?
We worked together at the Star Inn in 2006, 2007, and then he's been in London and San Francisco working as a chef, got loads of experience. He's from Teesside originally, so had kind of got tired with London a little bit really, and it was just coincidental that he was looking to move back up north at the time we were doing this, and he jumped on board, and it's been amazing, and you know, it's just been the two of us in the kitchen the whole time. But it just that consistency, you know, both of us always been in the kitchen. We've never had to look for any other kitchen staff, and it's just it just makes life so much easier, you know, when you've got stuff like that.
And I think what's really special from that point of view, and from the front of house point of view, which is, you know, we've had the same couple of, you know, Sam and Isabel from the very get-go up until now, and we've had people kind of come and go a bit, but, you know, Sam has been there from day one, and so you can have come and dined last year, and it will have been the two of you that cooked, and Sam looked after you, and then you can come again, and it's the same, you know. And I think that is what fills me with joy, that feeling that, like, we're building these connections with people that are coming, and they know that when they come, the food's going to be of the same quality, and they're looked after in a real way, rather than just a body, you know, that we're feeding. It's quite special, isn't it? The way
everyone loves. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's special, the relationships of between the customers and not just us, but between the customers and our staff. And that's why you see that they go the extra mile, because you'll hear Sam catching up on someone's garden news, or, you know, sharing tips on something, or someone bringing a little something for them because they mentioned it last time. And I think, you know, that shows to me that, you know, we've got the best people that we could possibly ask for working with us.
And I think everyone, you like it, don't you? If you turn up to a restaurant and there's someone there that you recognise, it makes you instantly feel comfortable, don't you? The minute, you know, if there's someone there that you recognise, and having someone like Sam who knows so many people because she's local as well, it helps. And Isabel
helps that her husband's a fisherman, so we get the nice fresh off the
well.
boat.
But yeah, you know, the two of them, Sam and Isabel, they've been amazing, you know, and it's been not having to, you know, if you keep turning over staff, you keep constantly having to train them and everything. It makes your life so much easier when you have consistent stuff.
And I think that's the thing at the moment. Like, you know, we are getting consistently busier, and we are going to need more staff. And it's about holding steady and finding the right people, isn't it? And making sure that they fit in with who's already here. And, you know, if that means waiting a bit longer, then, you know. And I guess, you know, I think that also there's got to be a nod to all of the people behind the scenes that allow this to run, because, you know, we've got 2 young kids, we've got a house, you know, and it's not just the people that you see, is it, ever? It's the people that look after your kids, it's the people that help with the house, it's the people that, I don't know, shout about something on social media for you so that you're getting awareness, or wash the pots, who look after the garden, who, you know, it's like there's such a team behind it. And also, like, the joy of coming back and doing it here where I grew up is, you know, we go, oh right, there's a leak, but you know who to ring, and, you know, like, or the vac pack machine's broken, what do you do? And if you go and do that somewhere where you're kind of anonymous in a big city, you don't have that little network of people, do you? And, like, I think I've felt very held, like, by the village, you know, like, there was a lot of support for, you know, some people kind of were like, ooh, you know, fine dining on the moors, is that gonna work? You know, and it's not for everyone, but it's, you know, I think people are realising that, it's food that is a bit more, maybe, you know, it's not fish and chips, it's not that kind of fare, but I think people are realising that we're not here with, like, stuffy linen tablecloths and, you know, silver service. It's relaxed, and it's about kind of, you know, making people feel.
I was accosted by someone outside the village post office and told that our fine dining restaurant just wouldn't work in Goathland.
They do come and dine here, though, don't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, read into that what you will.
Yeah. But generally,
I think we're just gonna have
So Pete,
it's fine. Generally, I just feel like we're really well supported by all the local people. Really lovely. They've all been super helpful. Obviously, you grew up here, you knew loads of people. I didn't know anyone when I came here, but I've felt like really, really welcomed into the village, and it's been great. So now we're going to look at what's next, and, you know, what the future holds for the homestead. So, what is next, Cecily?
What is next? So it was really interesting to get involved with the North York Moors National Park as a whole. I kind of stumbled across, it was the North York Moors Tourism Network, and it's been a fantastic resource. And it's been one of those things for me, as the person who's kind of doing the marketing as well behind the business, to get that support from other businesses, but also, you know, kind of expert advice. And it also just really helps you focus on where you want to go. So we've been working quite closely with them, and we have very proudly become North York Moors champion. So it's all about encouraging people to the area and bringing a bit more reasons to visit, basically. And, you know, we've got the holiday cottage and the restaurant, and one of their key kind of objectives is about bringing people to the area and encouraging them to have a holiday without using the car or having to go elsewhere. So it really helped think about what can we offer here. So, you know, come to Goathland and a few more things to get involved with. So that kind of started with the workshops that we started running, didn't it? So it was we did a workshop. I just can't help myself. I just love people, and I love bringing people together, and I love kind of crafts. So it was a bit of a kind of personal thing, wasn't it? And I said, I want to run a workshop in the restaurant where we do things and then have lunch. Oh no, it was the walks that came first. It was the walk that was the beginning, and so lots of people would say, "Is there a nice walk around here? Like, where can we go?" And I'd sort of advise them, and then I thought, I should go and do the walks and take pictures and write down the route and then put it on the website. And then we were just walking somewhere, and I thought, I'll just take a selfie and put it on social media and said, "Does anyone want to come for a walk with me one day and have lunch?" Thinking, I'm putting myself out there a bit. And loads of people came, didn't they?
Yeah, everyone's been full.
And I thought I'd just do it as a one-off kind of thing. And we met here and had coffee and just went out on like an hour and a half walk. And the conversations that were happening were just incredible. I'd hear snippets and kind of drop back and pull up with other people and hear what they're talking about. And it was wonderful. And we came back, and it was like February, so it was pretty chilly. Came back, had a lovely lunch, and carried on sharing. And it was then that I met a girl who I'd done yoga with when I was pregnant with one of the boys. And it turned out she runs weaving workshops. So that was how we kind of got into this thing of like hosting things that are, you get the lunch, there's the food, nod to the food. But we sort of realised that there was this, especially coming out of kind of lockdowns and stuff, this real need for connecting with people, right? So we did the walk, and then we did the weaving workshop, and I think there was about 8 of us, and we learned how to make some woven wall hangings. And I got chatting to someone on the workshop who happened to be a garden designer, intro Jan, and we got chatting, and I said, we'd love to chat to you more about that, or maybe you could run a workshop here. So we planned that workshop, didn't we, the gardening workshop with lunch, and then it's kind of led to her being a really big part of where we're going, hasn't it? So
yeah,
where are we at with the garden plan?
Yeah, so Jan, who is just an amazing person to work with for us, for us, she's just the perfect person to work with. The ideas that we have, she's got a very similar understanding of kind of not like this hugely kind of cultivated garden, but it's about just producing. For me, obviously, food starts with a great ingredient, and if you've got great ingredients, you can make a great dish. The more things we can grow in the garden, the more great ingredients. They're the best ingredients we get in the kitchen, are the things we harvest from the garden. So the brief of the garden really was with edibility in mind. So, people have seen already we've got quite a lot of vegetable growing area at the back of the restaurant, but really we're kind of more than double what we're doing there, really, because we want to incorporate some kind of wild food, some more kind of, she's named it the food forest, which is going to be down one side of the garden, which is going to be kind of like wild hedgerows, and wild plants that would grow in the woodland. So that's going to be part of the garden, and we're going to grow a lot more. We're just going to have a lot more fruit trees. We've put an orchard in already. So it's really to maximise what we can get and to showcase that in the restaurant. And you just get, again, I'll say it again, with a better ingredient. If you start with a great ingredient, you can produce a really lovely dish.
She really understands, doesn't she, that it's about what is manageable for us to maintain as well, because it's all well and good coming in with this amazing grand plan for something you're going to do, and first of all, can you achieve it in the first place, and second, can you actually maintain it, and kind of where do you go from there? And she's really invested, isn't she? And she's really keen to consistently run workshops for us. So the garden plan started with the kind of the kitchen garden, and it, as with most things that we get involved in, it spiraled, and it was like, oh, hang on, if we're going to do this, why don't we do this? And I think for me personally, I really I really felt like fulfilled from having that element of well, I loved how those connections came about, and I just think, well, the more things you can do where you're bringing people together, like-minded people, it's kind of what next? Who else is gonna appear on a workshop and kind of take the business somewhere else? And so when we did the garden plan, I think we started off with one thing in mind, didn't we? And then actually we've got this big dream now of a workshop space that will allow us to do as many workshops as fits, whether it's gardening, whether it's craft work, you know, the guy who wants to spoon carving or
wild food.
so we do the watercolor workshop. So it's just gonna, hopefully, I mean, it's planning permission, it's kind of funding, but I think the goal ultimately is, you know, we have the accommodation, we have the restaurant, so we've got somewhere for people to come and be and eat, and now we just need like the and something to do, and then you can come and have like a retreat in Goathland, and you know you've got the cottage, it's 6 mates or a family, you know, kids and stuff, and we can offer, I don't know, a gardening workshop or a yoga retreat one day that includes lunch, or you know, and then that's for kind of your visitors. But I think with the gardening workshops and everything, like it's somewhere that like the local children can come and learn how to garden and how to cook, and you know we will get the fire pit hopefully, so some kind of like you know, teach them how to pick their own food and grow it, cook it, eat it, you know. So yeah, we've got this big plan.
Big plan. Started off as a posh potting shed. It's turned into a grand summer
off-grid summer house, compost toilet, solar panels, wood-burning stove.
Yeah, and the idea as well of the space, obviously, it's going to be a green space.
Yeah.
So it's going to be off-grid. So everything, you know, from solar power, you know, retain its own water off all the roofs, so we can water the polytunnel in the greenhouse. Yeah, compost toilet. So we don't have to, you know, dig up the entire garden to, you know, get all the kind of utilities to it. So, and I think that's really important, you know, not making a massive impact as well. So.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the forward. So yeah, as our two-year review, we're we got the place by hook or by crook. No crooks, but you know, we kind of had it. I think we kind of are ticking the boxes of what the plan was. I don't think we've veered off. I think we've kind of got to where we hoped to be, and you know, the restaurant is becoming kind of taking on its own kind of place in the world, isn't it? You know, it just always floors me when people say they with someone who drove all the way from Leeds just for lunch because they'd read about us, and I was like, well, what else are you doing? They were like, nothing, just gone for lunch. I was like, what? So you know, I think that's super special, the way the restaurant's going. And yeah, I think the big thing for us is the kind of the garden and the sustainability stuff, isn't it? You know, trying to really review everything, because it takes time to learn the business, and it takes time to learn like what are the things that you can improve on, or what are the unexpected things that aren't quite working, or where can we go. But you know, I think the restaurant's ticking over, isn't it? All right.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Waiting with bated breath for a few more awards nights, aren't we? Justifying buying some sparkly gold shoes for myself. But yeah, so I think it's just about carrying on what we're doing, finding maybe another member of staff, and cracking on with the garden, which starts this winter.
It's kind of, it always feels like it's a project that's constantly on the go. There's always something happening, there's always something going on, you know, there's always some little plan etched out in your mind about the future, and that will always continue. I think that's, you know, you can't, if you're that kind of person, you can't change from being that. You know, there'll always be something.
It's never.
I've got loads of grand plans. that haven't even come out of my brain yet.
Just trying to, like, you know,
Just,
not
yeah.
tip me completely over the
Yeah,
edge
just one
into-
step at a time. And once the garden project's maybe done, maybe I'll come out with my next little grand plan. See
But
where
it's
that takes us.
It's getting a bit
So,
easier now the boys are older, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, they're semi-useful
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
So,
Wilford helps them plant fruit trees, so there we go.
yeah,
You know, definitely useful.
onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
So I guess if you've made it this far, we weren't completely rambling on, or you maybe just wanted to see what we wittered on about. But it's been nice to just, for us actually as well, to sit down and think about where we've come in the last 2 years, and you know, focus what we're doing, and hopefully we'll be sitting down with different people. So Jan, like I say, the garden designer, different suppliers. There's so many interesting stories behind everyone that's involved in the homestead, and they're really keen to get on board with this little series. So we'll be joining you soon for the next one.